Imagine being crammed into a dark, sweltering hall with barely enough space to breathe, thousands of miles from home, with no certainty of survival. This was life aboard a slave ship. During this transatlantic slave trade, one of the most brutal and tragic journeys in human history. I'm Sir Historious, and today we step into the haunting reality of the Middle Passage, where millions of lives were stolen, but their stories still echo through time. The transatlantic slave trade spanned over 400 years, from the 15th to the 19th century, forcibly uprooting over 12 million African men, women, and children. But before reaching the shores of the Americas, enslaved Africans endured the infamous Middle Passage, a harrowing voyage across the Atlantic Ocean. Ships departed from European ports laden with goods to trade for captives along the West African coast. In return, enslaved Africans were packed into the lower decks of these vessels, bound for plantations in the Americas. The journey could last anywhere from 5 weeks to 3 months, and for many, it became a floating tomb. Aluda Equiano, a former enslaved African, vividly described his experience aboard a slave ship. At just 11 years old, he was taken from his village and forced onto a vessel where the stench of death and sickness filled the air. He wrote of the suffocating heat, the cries of despair, and the constant fear of being thrown overboard. The shrieks of the women and the groans of the dying rendered the whole scene of horror almost inconceivable. Enslaved Africans were chained together, often lying shoulder to shoulder with barely 18 inches of headroom. Disease spread rapidly. Dysentery, smallpox, and scurvy were rampant. Food was scarce and drinking water often contaminated. But even in such dire conditions, resistance thrived. Revolts aboard ships were not uncommon. Captives who fought for freedom, despite overwhelming odds. In 1839, aboard the Amistad, enslaved Africans successfully seized control of the ship, a rare but powerful act of defiance. Could you have survived such unimaginable hardships? What would you have done in the face of such injustice? For many, the Atlantic became their grave. Historians estimate that 1.8 million enslaved Africans died during the Middle Passage, their bodies discarded overboard. This loss created the largest forced migration in human history. The legacy of the slave ships didn't end with the voyages. The scars of the Middle Passage shaped nations, cultures, and generations, reminding us of humanity's capacity for cruelty and resilience. If you are captivated by untold stories and hidden histories, don't forget to subscribe for more historical deep dives because the past holds lessons we must never forget. I'm Sir Historious, and until next time, let's keep history alive.